Hey, Kayla, let me just start by asking you, what's it mean to you? How's it feel after, I know you've had a scrimmage, but being able to play really just each other, what's it mean to go up against someone in a different color uniform Saturday?
I mean, it was great. It's another opportunity to prepare and get ready for our upcoming game in Paris against Duke. So I think this is just like, a real game, like in front of, real people, like a real scoreboard, so it'll be like a good, opening for like all the newcomers and just everybody to get ready.
Kiera, how's it feel for you? Your first game against someone else in a Baylor uniform. How's it feel after all the time you spent in North Dakota?
Yeah, I think it's just like really awesome just to be able to be here and show how much I've grown and how amazing our team is and how we're going to play and show off how we represent Baylor and who we are.
Yeah, kind of going off a little bit, how would you just describe the energy and the chemistry within this group, 6 newcomers, 6 returners, just after the full offseason you guys had together from summer to now? How would you describe just the energy and the chemistry going into it?
Yeah, I think we're the most self-entertaining people I've ever met. Like, everyone in our locker room's dancing all the time. I don't know if y'all have heard of Boots on the Ground. That's like our favorite dance every time after practice or before. I just think the chemistry is really great there, and everyone cares so deeply about each other, which I think is really great going into the season.
Yeah, that's awesome. For Kayla, new team, new squad, kind of how it is every year these days in college basketball, but what can you expect from this year's team that just is different? Your aura, your vibe, all these things that's different from last year.
I think going off of what Kiera said, we just have great chemistry. We all really care deeply for each other. And then also, on the court, I think we're just very versatile. This is a very versatile group. If you really, take a look and go deep into what our strengths and weaknesses are, we're very versatile as a team.
Kayla, for you, as you head into year number 2, how different does everything feel? When you were the newcomer last year, you've been in the program a year. Does it feel different to you on this side of things?
I wouldn't say it feels different, but, I kind of have a little role in, just, trying to teach the newcomers, and help them a little bit, even if I've only been here a year. But I also, I've been here a year, so, I know the system a little bit, so I'm not really, feeling oh, I'm the freshman, and I'm doing this alone, and I still have to get used to everything. It's kind of it's engraved there now, so.
When you see Kayla, she's the lone freshman in practice now this year, oh, I know how that is?
Yeah. But then it makes me I've been there, so I got to talk to her. Just got to help them through. So, yeah.
Kiera, how would you describe your game and, what you bring here to Baylor?
Yeah, I'd say probably I'm versatile. I've been working on extending my game further than what it was at North Dakota, so I've been working a lot. But I'm just really excited for the season and show off what our team's going to do.
When you think about, you talked about the versatility of this team. I was wondering if you could elaborate that on a little more even. What stands out to you about this team? I think everyone's multi-skilled, not specialist in some way.
100%. I think everyone's multi-skilled. We got a lot of size, especially with all the transfers here and all the people who've been here. I feel like we got really good size and everyone can play different positions, so I think that's going to help us in the long run.
Yeah, you talk about it a lot, or you have talked about it a lot, but what are you just most excited for? To show the fans, show the community, show us tomorrow night?
Ooh, I'd probably just say, show off, why, just show off, who we are as a Baylor team now, show our identity as, a new team with a bunch of transfers, a freshman, just showing off how hard we worked and that we are excited to be here and excited to play.
How would you guys describe this offseason? Alex kind of describes it as tough. Just tough and a grind like she has never seen before. How would you guys just go off that?
I agree, honestly. We had early mornings on the track in the summer a lot. Those were hard, going into practice right after that. I feel like it was tough, but I think it was really good for us and brought us together as a team.
Yeah, it was a grind.
Obviously it feels like a lot of what you're doing. You're trying to be ready for Duke, but you've got a West Texas A&M team tomorrow that actually beat Arizona, played SMU pretty well. Does that kind of get everyone's attention when you see a team in an exhibition like, oh, they've actually played pretty well so far?
I mean, yeah, I'm sure it's getting people's attention, but I mean, to us, we're going to play our game. We're going to, scout them and see how we need to defend them and things like that. So, yeah, they played well, but, we're going to play better and we're going to beat them. So,
Thanks, guys.
Sweet.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it. I'll start off with the obvious question. How does it feel for you to get the chance to see them against kind of someone on the stage in front of fans wearing a different uniform than Baylor?
Yeah, I just want to be healthy enough to see what we can do. I think, it's this time of year we're a little banged up and, but there's no doubt that you want to see them run up and down and you want to see them play in front of a crowd. But at this point, it's just, can we execute the things we've been working on in practice? That's the biggest thing. Like, translate what you're doing, what you've worked on in the summer, what you've worked on in the fall, like what you learned from your closed scrimmage, to be able to say, okay, now we can execute this, regardless of what the team across their chest looks like, how they play, how they guard your ball screens, whatever it is, that we can execute from our side well at both ends.
When it's an exhibition, you said obviously looking at how you execute's one thing. How much, when you think of personnel, does the game dictate? Are you trying to work everyone in a certain amount, or is that just kind of take it as it comes?
Yeah, no, I'll try to build out when I know who's going and how long, if we have any limitations. But from there, I'm gonna get everybody minutes. I think there's I think our starting groups separated themselves, but I think after that it's determining who's next and what 8, what 9, depending on opponent, and I don't think that's established yet, so giving them the opportunity to we played our bench a lot in the scrimmage just to get them minutes to see if the bench themselves could separate. And so that's going to continue to be important for us, really even going, it's all season, but it's going into that Duke game. Who can we count on in that Duke game to execute? Because when you have as many new players as we do, you're not quite sure sometimes. You don't know who, when the lights go on, gets a little bit better. You want them to be elite practice players, but you always have players that play differently, move differently when there's a crowd. And that can be good or bad.
Yeah, Coach. So how can just a game like this, first game of the season, exhibition, of course, just set the tone for the non-conference ahead? Of course, Duke here in the near future, non-conference stretch. You guys got a good one.
Well, I think the fact that this team just beat Arizona last night will get our players' attention, and I think they gave SMU a good game. And so obviously it's their third game this week. Which should be an advantage to us in terms of just, the physicality and just the wear and tear on your body this early in the season. But I certainly think, I don't want it to be about West Texas, and that doesn't mean I don't have a ton of respect for them, because you don't go and win at McHale in a new coach's opener without, having good players, really good players, and high execution. But I think it's about, for us, why do you schedule these games? You schedule them to see where you're at. And while we want them to execute regardless of what their offensive game plan or defensive game plan is, can we make adjustments? Because maybe we don't go into it the same way we would scout a regular season opponent. So can we, within the game, can we make those adjustments to how they're guarding our ball screens? Can we make those adjustments in the actions that are beating us? Because, we don't have game film on their exhibitions. So are they running the same stuff they ran last year? Are we preparing our kids for the right things? And then can we adjust in those moments? And so, I think that's the key here is, like, how do we show up? How do we compete on every possession? They were really good on the glass last night against Arizona. So can we be good in that space? It's something that we've hung our hat on here. But can this team prove that they can be good on the glass at both ends of the floor? And so it's just little things like that to me.
Yeah. Coach, Coach, so the girls, and of course you talked about the grind of this offseason, and so the progress that you guys have made, the chemistry you guys have built from the offseason, what has stood out to you the most from the offseason heading into tomorrow?
Yeah, I think I do think this group has really good connectivity in terms of I think they genuinely care about one another. I think they truly get along. I think they're going to cheer, for their sister. I think that that nothing's been really tested. There's not been a lot of adversity yet. There's no adversity at Waco Surf. When they're getting to know each other, there's even in an OU game when it's a close scrimmage, like there's not the same adversity. And so when you hit adversity, I think that's going to be the true test. The first time Duke puts an 8-0 run on you, who are you? How do you respond to that? And hopefully tonight we see that. Our goal is always at the defensive end to get kills. That's for us 4 stops in a row. How many times can we focus on that? Regardless of an opponent, like we know that when we reach a certain number of kills, we're more likely to win a game. It's the same with offense. How many paint touches do we get? It doesn't really matter. Our philosophy and our style of play dictates we need paint touch and we need the ball to move. And so can we do those things? So, do I think anybody's surprised me? I think this is a group that has a lot of talent, has a lot of really good pieces. I think they still need to help each other be successful and really understand what that means. And they haven't had a chance to really do that. So I don't say that as a negative. I say it as like every team has to truly form an identity on the court, and you can only form that identity on the court once you're out there and once you have adversity and you have different teams presenting different challenges to you. We know every day that our guys are better than us. Like we know getting 1 kill against our male practice squad with their size, length, and athleticism is near impossible, and I think that's where sometimes you can lose some confidence because it's like, wow, this isn't working. Well, it's not working because those guys are good, and they're as good as any team we're going to play all year long. And so it's like if you keep competing, we joke, if you can keep Jack off the glass, you can keep anyone off the glass. If you can keep AJ out of the paint, you can keep anyone out of the paint. If you can run Curtis off the 3-point line, you can keep anyone from making threes. And so if we'll lean into being elite at understanding, because every team's the same way as our scout guys. Every team has players that are elite shooters. Every team has drivers. Every team has rebounders, and so it's that idea of like, this team has to begin to dial in on what are we good at offensively and what can we hang our hat on defensively. And I think that's still, when you have as many newcomers as we have, even with the core group of returners that we have, that's what we're still, kind of working through.
Talking about the returners, we've talked about the fact that you've got all 4 members of your 2022 class, one of either 4 or 5 Power 4 teams that in the whole country that can say that. Are there areas up to this point that you've sensed that, where you've sensed the fruit of that, whether it's in practice or elsewhere?
Well, I think if you look at, we've been doing what we call Sikkim 5, and we play 5 minutes, and we play trying to get our own players in shape. We play against the guys 90% of the time, maybe 95% of the time, but trying to play, green versus white in those late game situations and really focus on how we're going to finish games. What are the Sikkim 5s, the last 5 minutes of a game? How are we going to respond in those moments? And if you look at yesterday, Jana and Bella were on the same team and absolutely carried their team to victory. And they were talking in every timeout. They were talking on every defensive possession. They carried their team, and so I think you see it in those moments where you have Kayla's been out. And so, that's where I have seen it, where those guys know what we want out of that drill, what the expectations are. And they certainly carried them on the box score too. But it was bigger than that. It was the talking part. It was the pulling them together. This is what we're doing. And so that's where you see it. Bugs is always going to lead with our energy and effort. Jan is going to need to lead with her voice. Bella's going to need to lead with her voice. In particular at the defensive end. Bella's our best defender. She's our best director of traffic. She's the one that sees things happening. And she's gotta really want to own that role. To be someone that helps all these new players, helps Talia, helps Markayla, be where they need to be and how we do it. It's not that Talia doesn't know how to play defense. She does, and she's a really good help side defender. But, our defense, what we say, how we say it, that's where I think Bella's a step ahead of everyone. All right. You got it.